The meeting will please come to order. Before we begin with the agenda, if you cannot find a seat in the chamber, please move to the mezzanine. I would like for everyone to stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation is being offered by Council Member Carter Todd.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we just come to you tonight and ask that you share with us your wisdom and guidance as we deliberate and conduct the city's business. Lift up our hearts and minds so that we might discover and do your will. Help us to be tolerant and seek justice in all of our decisions. As you say in your holy book, give and it shall be given to you. For whatever measure we deal out to others, remind us that it will be dealt back to us in return. Lord, we ask that you bless our mayor and let him know how thankful we are as Nashvillians for his tremendous leadership during last year's historic flood. Bless our police officers, firefighters, and judiciary, and all of those who work to make this city safe. Lord, we know we are a diverse city council of 40 members with 40 different views, but please bring us together on difficult issues like the fairgrounds so that we can act in the best interest of the city. We are grateful for the leadership of council members like Mike Jamison, Sandra Moore, Dwayne Dominy, and Jason Holloman, who in different ways have helped lead us during this difficult time. Share your divine wisdom and inspiration with us so that we can come back together as a council and continue to do the business of the city. Finally, Lord, we ask that you bless our vice mayor and all of our council staff, and let us all keep Councilman Ronnie Stein in our thoughts and prayers tonight as he is away at the funeral of a dear family member. We ask these things in your name. Amen.
Without objection, we'll suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of the members present throughout the meeting. Is there a motion for adoption of the minutes of our January 18th? Is there a second? Without any objection, the minutes of the meeting will stand approved. Madam Clerk, are there any messages from the mayor?
No, ma'am, there are not.
I would like to call everyone's attention to a letter on your desk. There is a vacancy on the Nashville and Eastern Rail Authority and Cheatham County Rail Authority. Nominations are due in the clerk's office by February the 8th. And we'll vote on them on February the 15th. We now are at the point on our agenda where we have presentations. Councilmember Will Hoyt.
Thank you, Vice Mayor, and fellow council members, if you would join me here who would like to in support of us honoring Miss LaDonna Boyd as serving as Miss Black Tennessee. As you know, Miss Boyd was here some time ago with her parents, and we acknowledged her being here in the audience and her parents because she was just coming to say hello, and this was during her reign. Now Miss Boyd has served tirelessly as Miss Black Tennessee. We want to honor her for the time that she provided to us as being a great public servant. So I read to you resolution number RS 2010-1433, a resolution recognizing the reigning 2010 Miss Black Tennessee USA LaDonna Y. Boyd. Whereas Miss LaDonna Y. Boyd of Nashville, Tennessee was named Miss Black Tennessee USA 2010, and in Miss Boyd, the organization found a deserving representative and a talented, beautiful, and accomplished young woman. And whereas Miss Boyd is a native of Nashville, Tennessee, and a daughter of Dr. and Miss T.B. Boyd III, and whereas Miss Boyd holds a degree degree in economics and a minor in French from Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. She is a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and is currently pursuing her master's in business administration. And whereas she has a special interest in minority-owned businesses due to a family history in publishing and banking, R.H. Boyd Publishing Corporation and Citizens Bank, both in Nashville. And whereas a woman of faith, LaDonna Boyd, is an active and lifelong member of the Mount Olive Missionary Baptist Church in Nashville, where she serves as the youth director. And whereas she plans to use her Heart and Soul, and that's H-E-A-R-T, and Soul platform, which consists of 6 key areas: health and wellness, economic empowerment, artistic expression, reading, writing, and arithmetic, travel and exploring other cultures, and religious expressions and gratitude through service that strengthen and contribute to the enrichment of not only the lives of young African American women, but also all communities all around the world. And whereas she has a true passion for traveling and meeting new people from around the world, and whereas it is fitting and proper that the Metropolitan Council recognizes and congratulates LaDonna Y. Boyd upon her reign as Miss Black Tennessee USA 2010, and for her many achievements and outstanding representation of the state of Tennessee, and extend to her all the very best in her future success. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Section 1. The Metropolitan Council hereby goes on record as recognizing the reigning Miss Black Tennessee USA, LaDonna Y. Boyd. Section 2, the Metropolitan Council office is directed to prepare a copy of this resolution to be presented to Miss LaDonna Y. Boyd. And Section 3, this resolution shall take effect from and after its adoption, the welfare of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County requiring it. Adopted the day of November the 4th, 2010, and signed by, under my hand, Vivian Wilhoit, Councilmember Anna Page, Councilmember Sandra Moore, Councilmember Erica Gilmore, Christine Lalone, Edith Taylor Langster, Council at Large Jerry L. Maynard II, and of course our Vice Mayor Diane Neighbors. And as we stated before, we wanted to let Ms. Boyd know that we really appreciate her being such an exemplary representative for the state of Tennessee as being our Miss Black Tennessee. Thank you.
Good evening to the honorable members of the Metro City Council, family, friends, and fellow citizens. It is truly an honor and a pleasure to stand before you this evening. I'm humbled by the experience that I have had to serve my state as Miss Tennessee for the Miss Black USA Scholarship Pageant, and during my reign, I just simply wanted to set a positive example for not only African American girls, but all races. And I wanted to show them that we are better than the negative images that are displayed in the media, and that education is one of the most important investments that you can make for yourself and society as a whole. I also wanted to let them know that it is necessary to broaden their interest to all aspects of life, as well as stress the importance of economic empowerment. I've had the opportunity to reach out to thousands of youth and adults who have in turn taught me invaluable lessons about strength, tenacity, and faith. And of course, community service will always positively impact all parties involved. Though it is important to receive recognition for one's efforts, it is more important to simply get the job done. There is still work to be done in our community. As long as there are youth with low self-esteem, as long as there are children that go to school hungry and not reading at the appropriate grade level, as long as there are single parents living paycheck to paycheck, unable to provide the necessities for their families, and as long as there is violence prevalent on the streets, the job is never done. Each of you has made a commitment to empowering the voice of the citizens and improving our great city, and one day I would love to sit where you sit this evening. I thank you for this recognition and for all that you do for the city, and I want to give a special thanks to all of those that sponsor this legislation, especially Councilmember Vivian Wilhoit, Councilmember at Large Jerry Maynard, Sandra Moore, Council Lady Erica Gilmore, Christine Lalonde, Edith Taylor Langster, Anna Page, and of course, all of you here this evening. Again, this is truly a humbling experience and one that I'm forever grateful for. And in closing, I want to say this quote from Mahatma Gandhi: "Before you do anything, stop and recall the face of the poorest, most helpless, destitute person you have seen and ask yourself, is what I'm about to do going to help him?" Again, thank you, and I greatly appreciate this.
Councilman Crafton, is there a group here you wanted to recognize?
Yes, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Vice Mayor. I wanted to introduce Troop 624, Scout Troop. They're here tonight working on their citizenship and communication badges. If you would, just please stand up and wave. All right. Appreciate you guys and your leaders being here, and just appreciate your endeavor to become fine young gentlemen. Appreciate you coming out tonight.
Councilman Ryman, do you have the next, you and Councilman Garrett?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. This is resolution number RS 2011-1502, a resolution recognizing Gillisville's David Wilson. Whereas on December 31st, 2010, David Wilson retired, having served Gillisville as the Executive Director of the Gillisville Area Chamber of Commerce, following many years as Gillisville City Manager, City Commissioner, and Mayor, where he worked with purpose and conviction to improve the quality of life in Gillisville. And whereas Mr. Wilson is an active and dedicated public servant of the Gillisville community, serving on numerous worthy civic and community organizations, and serves as a board member of the Metro Charter Revision Commission. And whereas throughout his careers in the Gillisville community, David Wilson is to be commended for his timeless efforts for the improvements to Gillisville, and will be missed not only for his leadership, but for his innovative ideas, commitment, and professionalism. And whereas David Wilson is an extremely generous person who often reaches out with compassion to people, as he epitomizes the ideal of consummate public servant, reliable friend, and neighbor. And whereas his many personal and professional accomplishments aside, David Wilson is fortunate to share his love and companionship with his wife Vicki of 40 years, his children and grandchildren. And whereas it is fitting and proper that the Metropolitan Council recognizes Mr. David Wilson for the outstanding service he has given to the people of Gillisville, most recently as the Executive Director of the Gillisville Area Chamber of Commerce, and wish this distinguished gentleman all the best and convey to him our appreciation for his public service. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, Section 1 of the Metropolitan Council hereby goes on record as recognizing Gillisville's David Wilson. Section 2, the Metropolitan Council Office is directed to prepare a copy of this resolution to be presented to Gillisville's David Wilson. Section 3, this resolution shall take effect from and after its adoption, the welfare of the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County requiring it. Sponsored by Rip Ryman, Tim Garrett, and Councilman Jim Forkham, and was adopted January the 4th, 2011. My congratulations, David and Vicki. Tim.
Madam Vice Mayor and council members, I want to first of all thank my wife Vicki for actually, Rip, it's 50 years and not 40. Oh. We'll be celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. I'm not sure how she has stayed with me all that long, but I'm glad she has. I want to thank Councilman Ryman, Councilman Forkham, and Councilman Garrett for this recognition. In 1963, as a young man, I was a member of the audience at Municipal Auditorium when Mayor Beverly Briley and the original council was sworn in and metropolitan government became a reality. And it's a great honor for me, 48 years later, to be receiving this recognition by this body, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Councilman Crafton.
Fellow council members, there is a council member here who has always been so kind and gracious, giving of himself. For years, I met him back in 1995, and also when I was a little kid in grammar school, he'd come and talk about city government. But he's always been so kind to bring cakes and sandwiches and just give of himself and his time. And so, Tim, why don't you come up here? This is on behalf of the Metro Council. It's a $150 gift card to P.F. Chang's. You and Teresa go out to eat, and we'll take care of you one night.
This doesn't conflict with the ethics, does it?
As far as I know, it doesn't. So,
Thank y'all. I appreciate it.
Okay, now we're at elections and confirmations. Councilman Adkins.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Rules and Confirmations Committee met and first considered the Solid Waste Region Board, the appointment of Aso Harami, and that particular appointment was withdrawn. The next was the Wastewater Hearing Authority, the reappointment of Mr. John Barnes. The committee approved 8 for, none against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
And that concluded our business. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Adkins. Mr. Barnes, are you with us this evening? On behalf of the Metro Council, thank you for your willingness to serve our great city. We appreciate it. First resolution is RS 2010-1484, determines to issue $1 million in GSD general obligation bonds. Councilmember Coleman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nabus. Committee report.
I am sorry, I've been advised I need to take 1525 first.
Okay.
I'll come back to you in a second. RS 2011-1525 amends the capital improvements budget for fiscal year 2011 to add a project pertaining to the acquisition of property and construction of a new Nashville State Community College campus in the Antioch area. Councilmember Page.
Thank you. Budget and Finance approved, 14 for, 0 against.
Councilman Gatto.
Sorry, Madam Vice Mayor, let's see.
1525.
I didn't want to look petty about it. That's all right.
Planning Commission approved 9 for, 0 against.
Thank you. Councilmember Page.
I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. We will need a machine vote for this. It needs 27 votes to pass. I think we're working now. Madam Clerk?
Ayes 36, no 0.
Motion passes. We'll now go back to RS 2010-1484. Determines to issue $1 million in GSD general obligation bonds. Councilmember Coleman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Nabus. Committee report.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and Zoning approved 9 for, 0 against.
Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance approved, 14 for, 0 against.
Councilman Coleman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'd like to move approval and give a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Fellow council members, a couple of weeks ago when 1484 hit your desk, I promised to you that we would get back with you and tell you in more detail what was going on. So here we are tonight. Nashville State Tech is one of our community colleges here that's been blessed by the state legislature, and they're doling out of $88 million. Nashville State Tech has decided they wanted to establish a campus in the Antioch area. To do this, they would need a 15% matching fund. The 15% matching fund would accounts to $1 million appropriated by this city council along with the mayor, and $250,000 from the Nashville State Tech Foundation. You can see that the state will contribute $7.042 million, and that will bring the project to an estimate of $8.3 million. A wonderful campus that will be established in the Antioch area. Needless to say that this is not a single council member accomplishment. This will be an accomplishment for our entire city as well as this council if in fact we were able to vote tonight in favor, and I do hope you do. I will tell you that this will create jobs, economic opportunity, and more important, education opportunities. As we know, Nashville State Tech enrollment is busting out the seam. 27% of its students are in the Antioch area. So they have decided that they would like to build a campus there, and I think that you will agree that Nashville State Tech is a fine institution. So with that having said, I ask that you reapprove our motion to establish the $1 million matching fund along with $7.2 that will be furnished by the state and $250,000 that will be contributed by the Nashville State Foundation. I think it'll be a wonderful addition, and I hope and pray that all of our relatives and friends and family can attend the university. Having said that, I move for approval.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilhoit.
Yes, Vice Mayor, I just want to stand in support of Councilmember Coleman, and just to say that this is going to be such a win-win for Southeast Davidson. So we look forward to having your support and hope that you would support this legislation. We appreciate the fact that Nashville State Community College has kept their promise in continuously looking at ways they can serve the people that they serve at their present location. And by thinking of the fact that they are looking at the students that are attending their schools and wanting to serve those students in a more efficient and a more immediate way, that says a lot about that state college. So we appreciate them coming to coming to Southeast Davidson, and would love to have you support and reference this legislation. And thank you, Councilman Coleman, for the hard work that you provided on this piece of legislation as well. Thank you.
Councilman Dominic.
Thank you. I just rise in support of this. This is something the community has asked for, the community has sought, and this is a win-win for the entire city of Nashville because it allows us to expand services that currently requires to drive all over the city. And this will be a great thing. I ask your support, and thank you for your efforts, Councilman Coleman.
Councilman Duvall.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Sam Coleman, for all the work you've done to help us get this approved. And I'm hoping this council, of course, will unanimously approve this bill. This is, from a selfish standpoint, the Antioch area has needed this kind of support. Southeast Davidson County does not have the education institutions that we've had in the rest of this city, so it's absolutely essential. Also, from a standpoint of it being located in the Hickory Hollow Business District, will bring new, fresh life into that area, and we look so forward to the school coming and then whatever we can do to support it. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Next is RS 2011-1526, appropriates $150,000 as a supplemental appropriation from the undesignated fund balances to the general fund of the General Services District to the Codes Department to demolish houses that have been deemed uninhabitable. Councilmember Wilhoit.
The committee voted 5-4-0 against.
Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance approved, 14-4-0 against.
Councilmember Wilhoit.
I move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
RS 2011-1527 approves an application for a hazard mitigation grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency and authorizes the Department of Water and Sewage Services to acquire 41 homes in the Lower Richland Creek and Lower Whites Creek drainage basins. Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports, please.
Councilmember Hodge.
Public Works approved, 3 in favor, 0 against.
Councilmember Page.
Thank you. Budget and Finance approved, 14-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Harrison.
Thank you. I'd like to move for approval with a brief comment.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman.
Yes, thank you, members of the council. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd just like to say that I know this is just a resolution approving application for a grant, but this is a start that will bring comfort and put people on the path of settlement for the areas in these particular areas. This particular resolution was originally supposed to be signed by Councilman Matthews because most of this is in his district. But, you know, I took over. I'm one of the sponsors, so I just want to make sure that he gets recognition for that. And I move for approval.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1528 approves an annual state grant to the Metro Board of Health for implementation of the state immunization program. Councilmember Forcum.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance approved, 14-4, 0 against.
Councilman Forcum.
Health and Hospitals voted 5-4, 0 against. And I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1529 approves a state grant to the Metro Board of Health for sexually transmitted disease services and HIV/AIDS prevention and surveillance. Councilman Forcum.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance approved, 14 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman Forcum.
Health and Hospitals voted 5-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1530 approves an annual state grant to the Metro Board of Health for food safety services. Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance approved, 14-4, 0 against.
Councilman Forcum.
Health and Hospitals voted 5-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Page.
I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1531 approves an application for a state grant to the Metro Board of Parks and Recreations to supplement the Big Band Dance Program in Centennial Park. Councilmember Maynard.
Committee report.
Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance approved, 14-4, 0 against.
Councilmember Maynard.
Parks Library, in a big way, approved this big dance application, 4-4 and 0 against. And with that, I move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. RS 2011-1532 authorizes the Department of Law to accept $8,763.39 in settlement of the Metropolitan Government's property damage claim against John Hooper. Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance approved, 14-4, 0 against, and I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. There has been a request that we take BL 2010-820 out of order. Is there any objection? Seeing none, BL 2010-820 amends the Metro Code to require the Board of Fair Commissioners to hold a state fair on the fairgrounds property in 2011 to continue operating the Expo Center at the fairgrounds until a suitable location site has been identified, and to oversee the demolition of the existing racetrack facilities for use as a public park. Councilmember Moore.
Vice Mayor, I move to suspend the rules for the purpose of offering the amendment that is on the council member's desk.
Is there any objection? There is an objection, so we cannot consider the amendment.
What's the objection? How many?
There were two.
Could the persons who've objected, could they please be identified?
Councilman Garrett and Councilman Holland.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Moore. We just need a motion on the bill.
I move for approval as amended.
We didn't get the amendment, so we're moving, we have a motion on the bill. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Bill passes. Thank you. We're now going back to bills on let's see, bills on first reading. Is there a motion for approval of all bills on first reading? So moved. Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. All bills on introduction and first reading pass on first reading. We're now at bills on second reading. BL 2010-731 appropriates an amount not to exceed $200,000 from the unappropriated fund balance of the General Services District to the Department of Water and Sewage Services for the benefit of car washes and plant nurseries that were subject to mandatory water conservation measures that were put in place after the May 2010 flood. Councilman Tigert.
Committee report, please.
Public Works, Councilman Hodge.
Public Works approved as amended both amendments, 4 in favor, 2 opposed.
Thank you. Councilman Tigert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There are 2 amendments that need to be considered. Do I want to move those? I'll defer to Councilman Maynard for the first amendment.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Mr. Cooper, will you explain the amendment that we're offering on this proposed legislation?
The amendment would add a provision that any agreement with the car washes or nurseries would include a provision where those receiving the financial benefit would agree not to sue or make any legal claims against Metro government in exchange for receiving these benefits.
Thanks. With that explanation, I move for the amendment.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The First Amendment passes. Councilman Tigert.
I would offer a second amendment that changes the effective dates for the car wash owners to submit their claims. The original bill, obviously, that had been deferred for a while to get to this point, had a different date. This brings it current, gives them to April 15th, 2011 to submit their claims, and May 15th, 2011 to finalize their claims.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Okay. Yeah, that was Councilman Tigert.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to be brief. First of all, the reason that this bill is back before us, Council Lady Langster had asked that the owners of the car wash submit a claim to Metro government and see if there was any possibility of those claims being fulfilled through that channel first, and we thought that was a very good idea. Unfortunately, after review, Metro Legal determined that there was no liability in their opinion, so that claim was rejected. So that's the reason that this bill is back before you tonight. Ladies and gentlemen of the council, I just want to give you some facts. We had one industry during the devastation of the flood that was treated entirely different from every other industry, whose doors were kept closed. We're not talking about corporations housed in New York or somewhere else. These were citizens who owned small businesses here. They're our residents, they're our taxpayers that were serving our community, that were denied the ability, even after the crisis was over, to open their doors again and serve the public. A couple of other quick facts I will tell you is that this $200,000 is not a cash payment. It's not like the $97,000 that we expended from water funds for the wind turbines and the solar power project. This will be spread out over time in the form of water credits. And I will say, we all supported unanimously the expenditure of that funds, but this is not hard cash. These are water credits on the bills to help a small compensation to these citizens who were deprived the opportunity to do business during these times. In my opinion, there's no precedent set for any other claims, because that is why this bill is done in an ordinance that specifically names these two industries, although we're not aware of any claims from the nursery industry based on the favorable weather that they had in the days and months after the flood. Finally, at one point, our water capacity had dropped into the 30% range, which is basically a day and a half worth of water before the city ran out. But by May 9th, we were back up to 80% plus capacity in our tanks. But even with that safety range, for more than 3 weeks, these companies were denied the opportunity to serve our citizens. And by serving the citizens, I watched citizen after citizen serviced by the Harpeth Valley Utilities area pull up in trucks and trailers bringing washing machines, clothes, and other items that had been damaged in the flood and spray off those materials and try to get them restored to the ability to use them. Whereas in other parts of town where the padlocks were on the gates, other citizens couldn't save their materials. So this is all about fairness. This is all about showing respect for our citizens who were put out of business, basically. It shows that we need a better plan, and we talked with Mr. Potter today about formulating in the chance that we ever have to go through a catastrophe like this. We learned a lot from this, and I think both the industry will be better prepared, but also the city will be better prepared, and certainly I think the people that make these decisions will be better prepared. So this is a bill I hope that you will support this evening on second reading, and if you have any further questions or comments, be happy to get with you in preparation for third reading. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All in favor of the bill as amended, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Next is BL 2010-808. Councilman Ryman?
Could we have a machine vote?
I need 5 people. Sorry. It's on second reading, Councilman.
We'll do it on third reading.
BL 2010. BL 2010-808 amends the Metro Code to allow members of the Metropolitan Council to act as a non-compensated representative for constituents before Metro government departments, agencies, boards, and commissions. Councilmember Wilhoit.
Committee report.
Councilman Adkins.
The Rules and Confirmations Committee deferred indefinitely, 8 for, none against.
Thank you. Councilman Member Wilhoit.
Yes, I asked for it to be deferred, and I'll be bringing this to you, and I look forward to having your support. Thank you.
We have a motion and indefinite or
indefinite deferral.
Have a motion and a second on indefinite deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
BL 2010-811 amends the Metro Code to prohibit the use of personal sound amplification equipment on the public rights-of-way within downtown Nashville. Councilman Jameson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilmember Langster.
Public safety deferred indefinitely at the sponsor's request.
Councilmember Wilhoit. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
At the sponsor's request, 4-0 against.
Thank you. Public Codes, Councilmember Wilhoit.
8-11.
Codes Committee voted 5-0 against to defer indefinitely at the council members' request.
Councilman Jameson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move to defer.
Have a motion and a second for indefinite deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-832 authorizes Bristol Development Group to install, construct, and maintain an underground encroachment for property located at 1700 State Street. Councilmember Gilmore.
Thank you. Committee reports.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 9-4-0 against.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works approved 3-4-0 against.
Councilmember Gilmore.
Move for approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-833 names the auditorium at the Howard Office Building in honor of Sonny West. Councilman Tiger.
Committee report, please.
Councilman Adkins.
Rules and confirmations approved 8-4, none against.
Councilman Tiger.
There is an amendment that changes the name from auditorium to conference center, and I would move the amendment.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. The amendment passes. Councilman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would move the bill as amended.
Have a motion and a second.
Thank you. Council members, Judy and I had the opportunity to visit with Sonny and Barbara Sunday evening at his home, and he wanted to convey his thanks for all the cards, letters, correspondence, and he really appreciates the concern that everyone is showing. Sonny West has been employed or was employed by this government for 55 years. He was the longest tenured employee around, and the reason that he worked so diligently for 55 years was not because he loved his job, because I'll tell you, he had a tough job. Anytime that you, and he did start very young, in his teens, but he had to make tough decisions not based on emotions or sentiment, but he made decisions based on the law and what was best for the city of Nashville. And as I walked out of his house Sunday evening, Barbara pulled me aside and said, "Sonny served this city loyally. He was willing to drop whatever he was due to help any citizen, whether it be a council member or just an ordinary citizen who needed help. But the reason he served so long was because he was born, raised, and loved this city so greatly." And this is a fitting honor for Sonny, and we wish him the best as he fights his biggest battle ever. So Sonny, I know you're watching at home because you watch these meetings. We love you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-834 amends the Metro Code pertaining to prospecting and the preservation of historic sites and artifacts found on Metro government property. Councilman Forcom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee reports.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 9-4 and 0 against.
Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance approved 14-4-0 against.
Councilman Forcom.
I think there's a housekeeping amendment that I need to move that just corrects a section number in this. So if I can move the amendment.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment passes. Councilman.
If I could move the bill as amended, and I would like to make a few brief comments on this, please.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Forcom.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Basically, as you know, we've had a lot of good things happen in Nashville recently, and that's with the Music City Convention Center and things on Rolling Mill Hill and with the new fire administrative building up here, and there's been a lot of dirt moved and turned in this contractor's work, and basically I want to say that because all that's Metro property. We already have a mechanism in place which tells us what to do if we find artifacts and objects of history that are on state property. But this mechanism actually helps us in Metro determine what to do, and it would be to contact, first contact would be with our Historical Commission. Our Executive Director is here tonight, as well as Tim Walker, as well as Mr. Curry from the Historic Commission. And basically what I want to say by saying this is, before a lot of these artifacts wind up, I think, in private collections on somebody else's shelf at home, but these things belong to Metro. They belong to people of Nashville. And this gives the Historical Commission a chance to go out first, determine its worth and value, and determine hopefully where it will be displayed or preserved for future Nashvillians to enjoy what's their heritage. And I would point out that in the paper a few days ago, there was a gentleman in Laverne who bought some filing cabinets from NES, and in those cabinets, 6 years later or so, he discovered that there was a treasure trove of old historic photos of Nashville with trolley car and everything else. He gave those back to Nashville. Now, not everybody does that, so hopefully this ordinance will be something that will keep, you know, what belongs to Nashville, some of our history here in Nashville. And I was going to say there's one other thing, just recently, and to tell you why this ordinance is really needed. Sometime around Christmas, there was some of the excavation work going on up here at the park where Edgefield, where Belmont will have their park. Little do people know, unless they are involved in history, that that's a place called Camp Morton, just like Camp Fort Negley was there. Well, Camp Morton, they uncovered cannonball there just around Christmas. I've tried to find out where that cannonball is, and so far I've been unsuccessful because it belongs to the city of Nashville. Hopefully, I'm going to send a letter out after this meeting tonight, and I'm going to ask, since that is the parks, if they can determine where this cannonball is, because again, I just think that this ordinance will help preserve our history, and with that, I'd like to move this as a minute. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second on the bill as amended. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-835 amends the Metro Code to eliminate the minimum charge for livery services. Councilman Crafton.
Do I need to have committee reports, or can I just make a deferral request?
Committee
Okay,
reports.
committee reports, please.
Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance, at the request of the sponsor, to defer indefinitely, 14-4-0 against.
Are you reporting for two committees?
Yes.
Okay.
Transportation and Aviation Committee also voted to defer indefinitely, 4-0 against.
Thank you, Councilmember Page. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Public Safety, on the amendment at the sponsor's request, we defer indefinitely, 4-0 against.
Councilman Ryman.
Convention and Tourism Committee moved to defer 8-0 against.
Councilman Crafton.
Thank you. I didn't know we were going to have Marlon Brando's daughter here tonight, but with that, I'll move to defer indefinitely.
We have a motion and a second on indefinite deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Indefinite deferral passes. BL 2011-836 amends the Metro Code to exempt certain newer vehicles from the emissions testing requirement. Councilman Ryman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance voted to defer 14-4-0 against.
Councilman Forcom.
Health and House Bills vote to defer one meeting, 5-4-0 against.
Councilman Ryman.
I move for a one-meeting deferral.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Holloman, you want to speak on this?
I do. I just wanted to ask the sponsors if this was going to go to the Board of Health. I mean, what I saw in the public dialogue looks like they had some concern about it at the Health Department, and I just wondered if the Board of Health, since they govern the contract with this vendor, was actually going to review this proposal.
At the last meeting, the Health Department said they wanted to talk to me, and I told them, well, just call me and let me know. I'll be glad to meet with you anytime. I have not heard from them. So I don't know if it's supposed to go to that committee or not.
Well, I was thinking about the board.
Well, we have a one-meeting deferral. One meeting? So we can look into those. Okay, all in favor of a one-meeting deferral, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. One-meeting deferral passes. BL 2011-837 requires the Board of Fair Commissioners to issue a request for proposals for privatization of and continued operation of the fairgrounds functions. Councilman Crafton.
Committee reports.
Councilmember Wilhoit.
Coles Fair Farmers Market Committee voted to defer 5-4-0 against.
Councilmember Page.
Budget and Finance voted to defer indefinitely, 14-4-0 against.
Councilmember Crafton.
Move to defer indefinitely.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of indefinite deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-838 amends the Metro Code to prohibit Metro government contractors from discriminating on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity through their employment practices. Councilmember Jamison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Councilman Toller.
Personnel at the request of the sponsor deferred 7-0.
Councilmember Page.
At the request of the sponsor, Budget and Finance Committee deferred 14-4-0 against.
Councilman Jamison.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Move for deferral with a brief explanation.
One meeting or indefinite?
One meeting.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Councilman.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Members of the council, the sponsors of the bill noted some press reports about a week ago that the Chamber of Commerce was researching this bill and its implications. And the sponsors each wrote a letter to Ralph Schultz, President of the Chamber of Commerce, and advised him that pursuant to his chamber's research of this legislation, we wanted to encourage that and accommodate that and would be deferring this so that we could coordinate a broader discussion of the bill. And since then, we've received a very gracious email from Debbie Dale Mason and have had some limited conversations with chamber representatives and look forward to having those conversations continued in the next 2 weeks. Over those next 2 weeks, I do not tonight ask for your commitment, but I do ask for your consideration of essentially one point. With bills like this, those that have some at least modicum of controversy, there are, as you may have seen, a pattern of 3 stages. The immediate opponents to the bill in the public sometimes submit to you mistaken beliefs regarding the content of the bill. Over the last 10 days, you've gotten emails that alleged that this bill would first force companies to create new HR policies. That is untrue. And I've attempted to respond to each and every one of those emails that you got and copy you on that clarification. The other mistaken allegation was that this policy would require companies to hire gay and lesbian employees. That is untrue, and I have again pointed that out in responsive emails. The second phase appears to be you are submitted to consider the presumed effects or supposed unintended consequences of a bill. You were advised, again in emails, that this ordinance would create the imposition of new fees and costs. That is untrue. You were then advised that this would prompt unnecessary litigation. I will be the first to acknowledge to each of you that research is still ongoing, but as best as we can determine to date, that is likewise untrue in the other cities that have adopted this legislation. In talking with members of the public, including those in the pastor community who are opposed to this legislation, I have had several wonderful conversations. Today I had a wonderful lunch with Pastor David Shelley. And in trying to boil down to the crux of what is the genesis, what is the origin, what is the essential element that prompts opposition to this legislation, it is this one thing. Nashville has a genteel reputation when it comes to political discourse, but on this one we have to be explicit. That one thing, that crux, is the belief that homosexuality is a choice. And I submit to you and ask for you to consider in explicit terms over the next 2 weeks whether or not that is in fact the case. Explore that issue with your friends, with your neighbors, with your constituents who are of the gay and lesbian community and ask them, did they wake up one morning and decide to be gay? I would submit to you that the answer is no, that it is not a choice. I would submit to you that the weight of authority on this issue is to the same effect. If I can read 2 sentences from the American Pediatric Association. The mechanisms for the development of a particular sexual orientation remain unclear, but the current literature and most scholars in the field state that one's sexual orientation is not a choice. That is, individuals do not choose to be homosexual or heterosexual.
Point of order. Are we debating this bill?
No, this is my explanation for the deferral, and the point of the deferral is to ask your consideration of this issue.
Call for the vote.
If I can finish this one point, because it's...
Councilman Jamison, Anything else you wish to say on the motion to defer?
No, Vice Mayor, I would just ask for the deferral. Thank you.
All in favor of the deferral, please say aye. Opposed, no. The motion to defer passes. BL 2011-839 abandons public utility easement in connection with the Brighton Road project and the sewers on the MBA campus. Councilman Holloman.
Motion to approve.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 9-4-0 against.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works approved 4 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman Holloman.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2011-840 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 1863. Councilmember Page.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Gatto.
At the request of the sponsor, Planning and Zoning deferred one meeting by a vote of 9-4-0 against.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works approved 4-4-0 against.
Councilman Adkins.
Traffic and parking approved 4-4, none against.
Councilmember Page.
I'd like to ask for a one-meeting deferral, please.
Have a motion and a second on one meeting deferral. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. One meeting deferral passes. BL 2011-841 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of 28th Avenue North right-of-way. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Committee report.
Councilman Gatto.
Planning and zoning approved 9-4-0 against.
Councilman Hodge.
Public Works approved 4 in favor, 0 against.
Councilman Adkins.
Traffic and parking approved 4-4, none against.
Councilmember Langster.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move for approval with just one statement.
Have a motion and a second. Councilmember Langster.
Thank you. I want the constituents of the 21st District to be aware this is south of the railroad track, not inside north of the railroad track, so that I want you to know we are keeping a very close eye on the 28th Avenue 31st connector. And with that, I move for approval.
Second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. We're now at bills on third reading. BL 2010-754 amends the Metro Code pertaining to cosmetology and barbershops as a home occupation accessory use in residential districts. Councilmember Stanley.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Gatto.
At the request of the sponsor, Planning and Zoning deferred to the second meeting in March by a vote of 9-4-0 against.
Thank you, Councilmember Stanley.
I would move motion. I would make a motion to defer to the second meeting in March with a couple of brief comments.
Councilman Stanley.
I will let everyone, ladies and gentlemen of the council, the Planning Commission approved this bill on January 27th. And I've been informed by numerous council members that you have been receiving misguided misinformation about this, specifically from individuals that are from that good old boy network. I don't appreciate that. I have not heard from any council members regarding any concerns about this bill until last night at the Planning Committee. The council members at the committee, they brought up numerous questions that were valid. And I plan to have a representative from the State Licensing Board at the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting on March 14th. But if anyone has any questions or concerns or comments about this bill, please contact me. Do not listen to former council members or people of the committee that are scared. This legislation is going to be very restrictive, and it can be a benefit for the city of Metro Nashville in general. But I feel like these questions that were raised by the council committee members, they need to be answered. And I am willing to defer this bill until the second meeting in March, when I can have an official
from the State Licensing Board here to answer these questions. Also, I would like to have a representative from Metro Law Department at the meeting to address any issues regarding legal issues that might be associated with this. So with that, I move deferral. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The deferral passes. BL 2010-803 changes 10.65 acres from RM9 to SP zoning for property located at Old Hickory Boulevard unnumbered, north of Central Pike, to permit a mixture of commercial and/or medical uses, along with a possible assisted living facility and active senior center. Councilman Gatto.
The Planning and Zoning Committee approved this bill 9-4-0 against, and I move for a one-meeting deferral.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? One meeting deferral passes. BL 2010-805 amends 65.1 acres from a previously approved Starwood Common Specific Plan District for property located at 3839 Murfreesboro Pike to allow all previously approved uses associated with the Starwood Amphitheater to be temporarily permitted. Councilmember Maynard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I believe this has been approved by the committees. And with that being said, there is one amendment that we'd like to offer and move for approval, and I would like to ask for an explanation by Mr. Cooper.
The amendment adds some conditions to the bill, especially a cap of attendance of 12,000, retention of all the landscaping buffers and additional landscaping requirements, as well as incorporating a traffic plan that was developed in conjunction with the Public Works Department.
With that explanation, I move for approval with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second.
On the amendment.
You have an explanation?
No, I don't have, no, on the main bill.
Councilman Coleman, did you need to be recognized?
Yes, Vice Mayor, I'd like to be recorded as abstaining.
Okay. All in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Opposed, no. Amendment passes. Councilman?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Now I move for approval as amended with a brief explanation.
Have a motion and a second. Councilman Maynard.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I want to thank Councilman Coleman and Councilwoman Wilhoit for their hard work on this particular bill. I think this is great for not only the Antioch area, but all Davidson County in order to take this site and utilizing it for not only entertainment, but music. This is Music City, USA. And with that, I renew my motion. Thank you.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-806 amends the Metro Code relative to economic and community development incentive grants. Councilmember Page.
With all committee reports being in, I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-821 amends the Metro Code to increase the annual filing fee for registration of lobbyists. Councilman Holland.
All committees having reported, move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-824 amends ordinance number Bill 2010-689 to extend the deadline for the waiver of certain permit fees when obtaining a permit for repairing or rebuilding property damaged as a result of the May 2010 flooding. Councilmember Wilhoit.
I'm sorry, Vice Mayor. Can I see the committee report, please?
Approved by all committees.
I'd like to move for approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
BL 2010-826 readopts the Metro Code to include supplemental and replacement pages containing ordinances enacted on or before August 17, 2010. Councilman Adkins. Councilman Adkins.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I move approval with just a brief explanation.
We have a motion and a second. Councilman?
This is generally not generally, it is the normal business that we do for Metro, and I move approval.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-828 authorizes the acquisition of properties or easements by negotiation or condemnation on Ashland City Highway and East Stewart's land for the Whites Creek wastewater pumping station improvement project. Councilmember Hodge.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-829 adopts the official street and alley and acceptance and maintenance map for the Metropolitan Government. Councilman Gatto.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
How many we got?
Motion passes. BL 2010-830 amends the official street and alley and acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning an unnamed right-of-way. Councilmember Todd.
All committee reports being in, I move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. BL 2010-831 amends the official street and alley acceptance and maintenance map by abandoning a portion of alley number 1916 and an unnumbered alley. Councilmember Page.
Committee reports, please.
Councilman Adkins.
Traffic and parking approved, 4-4, none against.
Councilmember Page.
I move approval, please.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Resolution 2011-1533 proclaims Friday, February 4, 2011 as National Wear Red Day. Councilmember Wilhoit.
Yes, council members, I need your approval for this resolution.
Councilmember Adkins.
Rules and confirmations approved, 8-4, none against.
Thank you. Councilmember Wilhoit.
I ask for your approval with a brief explanation.
We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Wilhoit.
As you know, council members, this is a very credible time and to recognize those who suffer with certain conditions, and we hope that you will show your support by wearing red at the next council meeting. Thank you, and I ask for your approval. Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye. Opposed, no. Motion passes. Is there a motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye. We are adjourned.